We are live. Well, hello, everybody, and welcome. My name's Maria Brophy, and I am interviewing Oliver Hojas.
Hojas.
Oliver Hojas. Oh my gosh, I've known Oliver for years. I'm always butchering everybody's name. We have an amazing topic today, and I'm super excited for all of you who are on here live with us. So in our mastermind group, Oliver posted that he had sold $200,000 worth of art with no website. And so that's what we're going to talk about. And when I saw that post, and then everybody had these questions about it in the mastermind, a lot of the members had questions about it. And I thought, we need to do a live stream, and I'm going to put Oliver on the spot. I told him I'm going to ask him questions. We did not prepare for this at all. It's just going to be like the way I like to do things. We just flow with it. So here's what we're going to do, Oliver. First of all, Oliver, thank you for being willing to share all of your secrets.
Of course.
And why don't we give a little bit of a background as to how you and I know each other. Do you remember when it was that I started coaching you? Was it January of 2020? Or was it before that?
I think it was before, actually. I think it was 2019.
Okay.
And I don't remember how I found you, but somewhere I got your book. I think from a friend, actually. She was an artist too. She gave me your book. And then I read the book, I Googled you, and that's how we got in touch.
Okay, cool. Yeah, because I look back in my emails, and the oldest email I have that I saved goes back to January of 2020. So I remember when I first started being your art business consultant, you said to me, I have a full-time job, but I want to transition from that to being a full-time artist. Now, I guided you just a little bit, but I'm not going to take credit for you being able to quit your job. I think it was summer of 2020. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So, but you are highly motivated. You've always been highly motivated. You take action. You know what you want. You might not know how to get it, but you just kind of step into it. And I think that's why you've been able to have so much success. So let's see. Do you want to give us just a little bit of background on yourself and your art, and just a couple minutes of that before we get into the meat of this interview?
Yeah, sounds good. So I started painting 2017 just for myself, and I did abstract art. So I'm self-taught. I never learned it anywhere. I just did it for myself. And like very early on, like there was one person that bought the painting a few weeks or maximum a few months after I started painting. And I was back then didn't consider myself a real artist, right? And he bought one piece that I made when I was 16, which kind of showed me like, hey, I can actually make money with this. And of course I loved it, right? That's why I did it. I didn't do it because of the money. And then fast forward, I put it on the side for a long time because I didn't figure out a way to make money with it. So then I had this full-time job in the personal growth company, and I learned a lot from them. So I would say that there was also a part of, like actually a big part of me becoming successful, like seeing these two people. So it was a startup company, very small. I saw them making 2 million per year, right? Like $500,000 on a weekend. It showed me what's possible. And on one point I was like, that's when I started reading your book. I went deeper into it, and I was like, if they can do something like that, I must be able to sell my art for at least 1,000, 2,000, right? So that's how I started thinking about these things. And then fast forward in 2020, I think it was in August, I officially quit my job and then did art full time.
That is amazing. And how old were you in August of 2020, if you don't mind me asking?
Good question. So I'm 20. I'm going to be 30 actually this year, which is crazy. Ooh. So it's 2025, so 25, yeah.
So you were 25. That's incredible, by the way. So it's funny, when you put that post into our mastermind group where you said you sold $200,000 worth of art with no website using
Mhm.
Facebook.
Mhm.
I thought to myself, gosh, all that coaching I did with Oliver, and I didn't remember that you had no website. So you still don't have a website, right?
So just to clarify, I actually had a website, right? But I've never used. I made actually one sale from all
Okay.
of these sales on my website. I never used it. Right now, I don't even have one because it
Okay.
just didn't. It didn't really make sense, right? It just was expenses, and I never used it. So yeah.
Okay. And to clarify, I do think every artist should have a website. However, you don't have to stress over it if you don't have one yet, because there are so many other ways to reach people with your art. And so that's what we're going to talk about right now. So why don't we do this? Why don't we have you talk a little bit about um, how you sold over $200,000 worth of art on Facebook.
Mhm.
Just talk a little bit about that, and then we can dive into the details. And I want to let everybody who's on here live, you are welcome to ask any question, and we're going to put Oliver on the spot. Um, we're going to ask any question in the comments, and we will we'll get you answers. Okay.
Mhm. Mhm.
Tell us all your
So,
secrets, Oliver.
where should I start? I mean, okay,
How
so
about the
yeah.
okay, the first painting you sold on Facebook? Maybe just talk about that. That's very specific how you did
Okay,
that.
that's a good idea. I started like I met this woman from Switzerland. She was selling on Facebook, and I started talking to her. And back then I didn't know how to do it, right? So I was just talking to her, and she told me how she did it. It was very simple. She was just posting in this Facebook group, and back then it was in expat. I think when we talked about the expats groups that I'm using, right? And so she literally just posted in there, introduced herself, and showed some art pieces. And that's how she got messages from people that were interested in buying. So I started exactly like this. That was literally it, just joining these expat groups and posting my art. And then, like, most of the time, I had people actually reaching out to me. Sometimes they just left a comment and I needed to reach out to them. And she also told me she was very proactive. So already learned there, like you have to be proactive. Don't make a post and wait for people to reach out to you. So I started writing these people, asking them questions, what they like literally just connecting with them. And in these expert groups, most of the people, they didn't buy art so fast. They were like very specifically on, of course, there was a certain niche. They kind of had money. They're in Switzerland. They had good paying jobs, but they were not like so. It was not so much about the meaning of the artwork. It was more about the size, how it looks like. They had money. They had a certain budget. So that's what I tried to figure out. And many of them actually wanted to see the artwork. So I remember the first. It was a couple. They came to my mom's place, and I was still living at my mom back then, and it was like an old house, and they came for one piece, but then it was too big. But since they came, they looked around and they saw another artwork they really loved, and we right there and then we made the deal. They asked me, they love this piece, how much is it, da da da, and then we made the deal 1,500. That was my most expensive piece I've ever sold back then, and I think one of the first pieces I've sold. I mean, I sold small pieces for 200 there, 200 here, but nothing like that. And then they bought another one for 500 as well, like a smaller one. And there were also some friends there, and they saw that happening. And so they're like, okay, we also want to buy something. And I believe they bought something for, don't remember the exact number, probably 300 to 500 as well. That was like my first experience of like selling art. And that was actually back in 2019. Yeah, so that's how it started, and it started with the Facebook groups.
So let's talk about the Facebook group for a minute. So these are private groups that you join, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Um, and you said expat. Is that what you said was one of the groups that you joined? So
expat, yes, expat Switzerland, and I was checking, different places in Switzerland like Basel, Geneva, Zurich. I was just checking like what kind of expat groups are there in Switzerland.
okay, so so you said that you were proactive. People would reach out to you, but you also were proactive. You would write and connect with people. So if someone reached out to you, so what would prompt someone to reach out to you? Would you would do a post with a picture of your art?
Yep.
Okay.
Exactly.
And was the
Picture.
post about your art or was it about something else?
So that's a very good question. I changed my strategy. In the beginning, it was about my art, just quickly introducing myself. My name is Oliver. I'm doing big abstract artworks that are colorful. Here are some examples. So it was very focused on the art. And to be honest, making these sales were harder. These people, they negotiated more. They were there for the art piece. They literally just wanted a piece of art that they liked to fill an empty wall. And they had the money, right? They didn't want to go to IKEA and buy a cheap print. So they wanted something special. But this strategy, it was harder. Let's say it like this, right? I haven't been able to make a living with these kind of groups. And I think that's one of the stages an artist goes through. Like I was going through the stage in the beginning thinking like, hey, let's go to art collector groups because an art collector would buy my art. But then to my surprise, these groups are full of artists because every artist thinks like that. Then the next stage where I was thinking like, hey, are there people around like close to where I live that have money? But again, it's just like one step ahead, right? And that worked better. But then the ultimate step where I sold the most was when I was thinking like, hey, what is my art about? Like, what's my purpose as an artist? What's my story? And I started inspiring people. So then I started focusing on groups, not expat groups anymore, because again, with the expat groups, I reached the ceiling and they were really hard to sell because most of these people ignored my messages because they were just there they had no interest in me as the artist. They didn't look for connection or meaning. They just wanted to fill their walls with a piece that's original, but still within their budget, right? If it wasn't within their budget, they disappeared. And they had no reason to reach out to me and say anything. So when I focused on more like inspiring people, the meaning behind my art, my story, and I started finding groups where I find people that resonate with that, that's when I started posting my story instead of, it was more about my story. And my art had a place in there, of course, because it was me, a picture of my art and the story. And then I connected to these people on a deeper level. And these people, funny-wise, were willing to spend way more, like really way more, like from spending 1,000, 2,000 to like 5,000, 9,000, 20,000, right? They really spent, and it made sense because they had a personal connection to me as the artist. And they looked for meaning and connection in the artwork. So it was not just about the physical piece of art to fill a wall, right? So that also then becomes way more valuable. So yeah.
That's incredible. I have so many questions, and then there's a lot of questions in here. So why don't we work through some of the questions real quick? Jill, who's a member of our mastermind group. Hi, Jill. So good to see you here. Jill's question is, how can potential collectors see all your work if you don't have a website and your social media posts usually have one or a few paintings?
Very good question. That's a fantastic question. That's the thing. Like, I was always thinking, like, why do they need to see all my paintings? So I come from, and I think a little bit differently because I'm coming from the coaching background. So I was in a personal growth coaching company. I was working there for 3 years and I saw how they operated. After that, I joined, I was still working there. And at the same time, I joined a coaching program, spent thousands on that. And I learned from these people. Also, like another coach, like one guy within this space, he coached me personal. And they were all in the same line of no website, because it was all about connecting to the person one-on-one and then figuring out what they want. And in the coaching space, it was a bit different. It's more about figuring out their problems, their current situation, their goal, and kind of closing the gap. It is a bit different, but the basic idea was to be on this call, connect to this person, figure out what they want and need, and giving them that on the call right there and then, right? And also making the sale. So I also learned that if you let people go away after the call, most of them never come back. Yeah. So that's why I thought very differently about this. I never had this idea of like sending them to a website, and it just didn't make sense, right? If I connect to the person one-on-one and we have a fantastic conversation, a beautiful like connection, and we talk about like one piece of art that they love, because my job is to figure out, what do you actually love? Which piece resonates with you the most? Why does it resonate with you? So I'm doing all this work. Why do I need to send them then to a website where they get distracted with all these pieces? So
Oh
that's
my
why
gosh.
that's why it never
Yes.
made sense to me.
This is so
Yeah.
brilliant. And I never thought about this like this, but we have an art gallery here in Southern California, and somebody will walk in the door and they'll hone in on one painting that they want. And I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to sell them this painting. I'm not showing them anything else. And then my husband Drew will walk in and he'll be like, oh, did you see that? Did you see that? And next thing you know, the fish swam away because it got confused by too many options. So yes, show them something that they love. Don't show them anything else unless they say, I don't want this one. What else do you have? But, and one other thing you said was that you don't let them go without buying, because if you think you're going to follow up with them later, you lose them. And again, that's the fish swimming away. And when I was in the insurance industry, I used to sell insurance for a living. We had a saying, and when you go on a sales call, it's A, B, C. Always be closing. You close the deal before you end the conversation. So if you can remember ABC, always be closing, close the deal. Closing the deal means you get a credit card number, you get payment, you get their shipping address, whatever.
Exactly. Yeah. There's also like, I learned that from another guy. He also called, and these were like salespeople. They really helped me because they had a different kind of thinking. He also told me, like, you don't always need to make a sale, or you don't always need to get it. Sometimes I even got a deposit on an artwork. So they paid me $300, $400, $500 as a deposit. And after a month, 2-3 months, they came back and paid the rest, which is like 3,000-4,000. And I would never have gotten that without the deposit. Right. So
the deposit is so important. If they're like, well, I don't have the money right now, or I'm waiting. Like when you're dealing with wealthy people, here's an interesting thing. I've noticed that some of our wealthiest buyers, which I only have a few like really wealthy people, they don't spend money. They don't have right here. A lot of their money is invested. They're waiting. They're like, okay, I'm getting in a cash infusion in 4 weeks. I'm going to pay you then. So you get a deposit. You say, well, can you pay, $500 or $1,000 deposit today? And then I'll hold it for you. And then, and they always come through because they pay the deposit.
Exactly.
I just want to answer Caddy's question real quick. She asked, are you saying you joined an expert group or an expat group?
Expat.
As in,
so like
someone from like an American who moved to Switzerland.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought. But thank you, Caddy, because I was a little confused on that too. Okay. So Curtis asked, how big are your paintings and how much square inch do you sell them for? But before you answer that, I want to ask you, what's the highest price you got from what's the most expensive painting you sold through Facebook?
24,000.
God, that's amazing. You've got me so beat. And I've been in this game 25 years.
Yeah.
And by the way, for those of you listening, Oliver and I coached Oliver off and on from 2019 for just a few years, I guess. And then we lost touch for a while. And then Oliver contacted me last June and said, hey, I'd like to collaborate with you and start a private exclusive artist mastermind group. And it was so amazing that Oliver came to me with that, because I had been for like a long time, I was looking for just the right partner because I wanted to start a mastermind group, but I didn't want to do it alone. So now Oliver and I together run the Art Money Success Mastermind group, which I put a link in the comments earlier, and I'll put another link in it for those of you who are interested in joining it, where we share this information. A lot of the people who are on live right now are actually part of our mastermind group. And a lot of them have commented, and we're going to get to all of your questions, by the way. Okay, so Oliver, do you mind answering Curtis's question?
Yeah, good question as well. So that's, again, I must say, I'm really thinking differently. I'm not thinking like a typical artist. So I've never priced my art per square inch. I do have a system, like, of course, I'm measuring in centimeters, so it's a little bit differently. But I've never started like this. I was asking myself, like, what is my goal, right? How much do I want to earn per month? And then I was like breaking down the numbers, right? So I want to make, for example, 10,000 a month. So what is easier? Is it easier to sell 10 pieces for 500? No. You would need to sell 20 pieces for 500 each month to make 10,000. Is like, do I want to do that, or do I want to be closer to like maybe 2 pieces per month for 5,000? That's how I was thinking. So when I became really serious about selling my art, I went from selling. So now we have to change centimeters with inches. Just give me a second. 100 centimeters in inches. How much is that? Maria, do you know centimeters?
Oh, centimeters to inches. Wait a minute. Okay. Well, what is it that you want? What's the number? Sorry, I'll look it up.
So 100 centimeters is around like 39 to 39 inches, right? It's like
100
like 40,
centimeters.
40.
Is that what you said? Sorry, your voice cut out. 100 centimeters is, wait a minute. 100 centimeters to inches. Hold on a second.
It's pretty big.
Is 39.4. So almost 40 inches. So 100, so that's big. So the painting that you sold for 24,000, how many centimeters was that? How big was that?
It was 120, so a little bit bigger. 120 on 120. So square.
Square. Okay, so it's about approximately 48 inches by 48 inches. So if we say 48 inches times 48 inches, that's 2304 square inches. And if you, let's see, how much would that be by, I'm trying to figure out the math. I can't figure that out right now. I can't figure that out with this audience, but how much it is per square inch. But it doesn't matter because you weren't doing it that way.
Exactly. I wasn't like, I was thinking very differently. I'm more like, I put more attention to the feeling. Like when I look at my art piece and I say like, I want to have 5,000. Am I actually believing that someone will pay 5,000 for it? Yes or no, right? And that's usually how I price my art. And I had so many experiences. I went also out into the world, talking to people, stating these prices, right? I was not staying within my own home and just like going with my prices back and forth and not being able to decide. I was like, just like, hey, look, I want to earn that much with my art. I want to charge higher prices. That's the vision that I have for myself as an artist. There are 1,000 ways to roam. You can sell your paintings for 500. You just need to sell more of it, which means you need to have more traffic, a bigger audience. You can completely do that. But my vision was like, I want to be an artist that charges like super high prices and people actually pay for it, right? And charge higher and higher and higher. And I had these goals of like being able to sell a painting for 10, 20, 30, 40, 50,000. I wrote these numbers down and I got to 24,000, right? Within a quite short period. So this was just my vision. And so I went down that path and then I tested it, right? I went out, talk to people and actually said, hey, look, this piece, actually the first person I talked to after raising my price from 1,000 to 4,000, he bought 2 of them. So I made 8,000 from him instead of 2,000. Huge difference. Imagine, right? So
that's amazing. All right. So let's take that as a case study. Okay. So you got this guy. So because I want to break this down for everybody that's listening. So give us a very specific, real example of someone reaching out to you. what did they send you a question like the guy who bought the 2 paintings for 4,000 each? Did he send you a message saying, "Hey, I love your art," or what? How did that go? Give us step by step how that went.
So that was actually a funny case, because this guy was he was a student of this personal growth company, right? But I saw him maybe once or twice at one of these events. And then, of course, like, I connected to these people on Facebook. So I friended them all. So they were in the same group. I friended them all, and I just kept posting my art, right? So they, of course, they kept seeing it. And we already had a connection somewhere. He knew me. He trusted me. That's very important. I learned that very early on. People buy from people they know, like, and trust. And so this was already out of the way, because I'm from this personal growth company that he is a part of, right? So he knew me, he liked me, he trusted me. Then he kept seeing my art on Facebook. And at one point I needed to call him, because of the personal growth company, I needed to give him some information. And he told me, "Hey, I really like your art. We should talk sometime." And I'm like, yeah. I was so shy. I was so shy that I was like, yeah, okay, let's talk about this later. Something like this. I felt so awkward. And yeah, I think months later, I didn't reach out to him, nothing. After, like, I reached out to him when I became serious, when I kind of, there was the moment when I really decided, hey, look, I want to quit my job. So in my life, urgency was a big part. It became extremely urgent for me to quit my job, because I just didn't like it anymore, right? And I got the help that I needed. So I signed up for coaching, had a sales mentor that taught me specifically how to sell. And he said, like, you need to just jump with people on calls. Don't just send messages, jump on calls. And then I was remembering this guy that he said months before that he would be interested. And so I reached out to him, and he's like, yeah, let's jump on a call these days. And so we put a date into the calendar, jumped on the call. It was super casual. It was not even like a sales call, right? So that's where the sales coach was also a bit wrong, because he never sold art before, but he had really good tips, right? Like, just the tip of jumping with people on calls was already enough to actually, sell more art. So we are just talking, and, he talks a bit, and we just had a friendly conversation. And I think, I'm not sure if he brought the conversation back to the art or me, but like, one of us brought the conversation back to the art, and it's like, hey, yeah, you want to see some art that I have? And he's, yeah, yes, of course. I turned on my camera and showed him the art. And he was one of the buyers that's super easy. It's like, I love this piece. How much is this piece? And that was really, like, I think a few days before that, I decided to raise my price from 1,000 to 4,000. And I did it a bit differently. So I tested a lot of things as well. I would really say, hey, I just took massive action. I went out there talking to people. I was, how scared I was? This was completely out of my comfort zone, but I did it. That was the main thing. I don't know what I was afraid that this person would laugh at me, would feel this, like, maybe he would feel attacked because my art is not that valuable, or whatever, what thoughts we could have. So I just said, like, hey, this piece is 5,000, but since we know each other already, I would love to give you a special price and make it 4,000 for you. That's what I did. I was so scared. I was freaking scared. Yeah, so just a
well,
little,
I love that. So I thank you for sharing how shy you were. And I can't even imagine you shy now, because you're not anymore. But that's what happens. If you're nervous talking to people, the more people you talk to, the easier it gets. But you just have to talk to people, and you have to make it happen. So this is just so awesome. Okay, let's see. I'm just going to run through some more of the comments.
And by the way, he said, then just yes. Like, I just want to finish with that. Like, I was so scared. I was so scared to even state that price. And he is like, it's quiet for a moment. I'm saying nothing, which I also learned in sales. Make the offer, be quiet. So it was quiet, really scared. And he's like, okay, let's do it. I still remember that moment, because for me, this was the beginning of me making a full-time living. Right. So, and then 1 month later or 2 months later, I'm not sure, he came, like, his daughter came to pick up the painting, saw a second piece, and she then talked to him, and he bought the second one for the other daughter. It's just like, I'm very much into mindset, because these things, like, I couldn't plan these things. I was just like, I was in the right space. I was taking massive action. I was facing my fears, just getting out of my comfort zone and following my dream of, making sales.
Yeah. Well, and the mindset's huge. And that was one of the first questions we got earlier on. And I didn't ask you because we were like introducing the whole thing. But once you make a decision, and I was telling one of our mastermind members this yesterday, we did the hot seat, Kel, because Kel has some original paintings sitting around unsold, and he's been selling prints of them. So he knows that people love these paintings. And I don't know if you remember me telling him, when you make the decision, I'm going to sell this painting. There's a painting he called Trixie something or other. I just call the painting Trixie. You make the decision you're going to sell that. You take massive action by posting it everywhere, telling the story about it, sending a newsletter, and contacting past buyers of your art and people who showed interest. And the best way to do it, if you have their phone number, and you would not believe the phone numbers I have in my phone. I have a lot of like famous numbers in my phone. I get people's phone numbers all the time, and I'll text somebody, like when Drew finishes a painting, and I think of a person we haven't talked to in like a year or 2 or 3, but I still have their phone number, and I'll text them and I'll say, hey, Drew just finished a painting. I think you might like it. Would you like me to send you a photo of it? I don't send them the photo. I ask if they want the photo, because I want them to respond back. So then we're connecting, right? And they respond back and say, sure. And then I send them the photo. But that's, selling art to somebody who showed an interest in the past, like this gentleman did. You, when you were young and shy, you let a period of time go by without selling him the art, but then you did eventually close the deal.
Exactly. Yeah.
So there's a couple questions here. Keith asked about groups that are similar in the States. He's talking about what Facebook groups. And then there's another question. What type of groups are these? Can you give us an example? So can you just break it down for people who aren't familiar with Facebook groups and how they work?
Yeah, so I get this question so many times, like, what Facebook groups should I join? And you asked that question too early. I mean, I can give you some ideas, but again, I specifically join Facebook groups based on my ideal customer, right? And this is so individual.
Yeah.
You have another ideal customer than me. So it doesn't make sense that we join the same groups, right? So I can just talk from what I did. So first, I defined very clearly who is my ideal customer. And then also like where can I find my ideal customer? And even before that, there's one step before that, which is like first figuring out what's the meaning behind my art. What is my story? What's my purpose as an artist, which is the why. And that's the emotional part. If you have that part, you will be able to connect to people much easier, because it's not just about the art. It's about everything beyond the art, which is the purpose, the meaning. And that gives you also a lot to talk about, because there's not so much you can talk about the actual piece. You can say, yeah, look, I used this material, that color, and here I was thinking that. It's kind of limited. But if you talk about the meaning behind it, there's way you can go deeper. So I define my why. Based on my why, my ideal customer, then like where can I find my ideal customer? And you literally can do this. This is just like a thinking process that you can use anywhere. Like Maria, I think, also wrote about that in the book, that you can, like, I think you found then certain life events where you could hang a piece of art, right? And you sold art like this. So it is actually the same thing. I'm doing the same thing, like Maria, thinking that way, just online on Facebook, because on Facebook you can search for Facebook groups, right? Which is a community of people.
So like, for example, a lot of, like, we have a couple artists in the mastermind group that are cowgirls. We have a couple cowgirls, and that's easy. There's Facebook groups where for people who love that cowboy lifestyle, right? There's a ton of groups. If you're into motorcycles, there's groups for that. If you're into music, like let's say you're into classical music and the art you create is beautiful abstracts, that is a perfect fit. So just think about, and like for Drew, since most of his art has to do with surfing and the beach lifestyle, there's a lot of groups that fit with that. So yeah, just think of what it is that you love and how your art fits into that. And then there's your group. One of our mastermind members does a lot of bee art, like of bees, which I love. There's groups on there, people who are like beekeepers and into homesteading and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
I also know a friend, by the way. He just quickly he is drawing
Drew,
he's drawing cars. Yeah, he drew cars, exactly. And this is like he joined car groups and he sold artworks like that. And I actually helped him a lot because he was drawing them for hours and hours and hours and charging $200-300. And I kept telling him, if you want to struggle, his name was Ivo, if you want to keep struggling, keep selling them for these prices. And he saw what I did, right? And then at one point, eventually he raised his prices and started charging 2,000, 3,000, 4,000. It's even like people with these beautiful cars, they can afford it, but he was limiting himself. And so to say the groups, this is a very linear way of thinking how, like what kind of groups to join. I went down more the emotional way because my art is abstract. So there's no linear way of like abstract. Who likes abstract, right? So I was going more the emotional way, which is more like, what does my art mean? And who am I as a person? What do I stand for? What do I stand against? And so for me, it's all about personal growth, spirituality. And so I joined these kind of groups. But I was becoming specific. If you just search for meditation, spirituality, you probably don't find good groups. So I went specifically like, are there any mentors, spiritual leaders that helped me, that changed my life, that inspired my work? And look if they have groups. And that's the more specific. It's more like you will find better groups if you become more specific instead of big
I love
and general.
that. So that's a good thing. That's another good thing that everyone can do. Who are some of your mentors or people you look up to, alive or dead? There's a group with those people. And that's brilliant. So there's so many ways to go with this. And Oliver, that course that you created for our mastermind, do you actually show, I apologize. I have not done your course yet. I've been busy. But do you actually show like your actual posts and things like that in that?
Yes, exactly. Like literally everything from the why to ideal customer, like what to post, like the writing, and then even like how to chat with the people, like literally the whole thing. Yeah.
Okay. All right. And just for everybody listening, for those of you who are not in our mastermind group, we'll share information about that at the end. And you can ask questions about that. So Debbie asked, what price range did you start out at when you first began? And I think you already answered this question, but if you want to just answer it really quickly again.
Yeah. So the first piece I've ever sold, I painted the painting when I was 16 and I sold it for 600, which already showed me like, price and skill and size. And it was a very small piece. I already knew back then, these things don't matter as much as artists think, right? But yeah, fast forward, I struggled for a while. So I was selling for 250, for 200. And that was the period when I struggled. And then I got kind of stuck so that's 2017, first piece for 600. Then 2018, struggling, selling here for 200, there for 200, to then fast forward 2019, mid 2019, where I started selling from almost no sales and very cheap to then going up to like here 500, then there's this couple for 1,500, one piece, and the other piece for 500. And I had a bit of an up and down, right? So I also remember I sold some pieces for 500, other pieces for 1,000, but also some pieces for 3,000. So I always like the challenge of stretching myself. Like, let's see how far I can go, right? And then the big increase, but yeah, already 2019, I sold pieces for 3,000. And then 2020 is when I really went from 1,000, made the decision that my standard price now for this bigger painting is 4,000. So there was not like a very gradual way. It was a bit of an up and down, and had a lot to do with my emotional state and what I believed I deserved. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So this next one, this is great. Fairy Girl asked, isn't this way too exhausting? All the conversations you have to have. And it's funny because Oliver and I were talking about this before. So I got an email yesterday morning from a woman on my email list. And she said, I want to know how to sell art without the internet at all, and without doing art shows at all, without any of that, and without a gallery. And my answer was, then you have to get out and talk to a lot of people. And so if you want to sell art, there's a few ways to do it. One, you have a website and you pay a lot of money for advertising, which is one of the things we do with my husband Drew's art. We spend we spent like $6,000 or $7,000 in November on advertising, Instagram, Facebook. But we did about 40,000 in sales, so it paid off. So advertising, or this method Oliver has through Facebook, but I would think this method would work with some other things as well, some other social media. Your email list and getting out and doing live events. But if you want to sell art, you have to take, as Oliver said, massive action. You have to take action. You can't just sit in your house and, there's no magic wand that's going to do it for you. Nobody's going to do it for you. I mean, I remember when Drew and I first got in this business back in the 90s, and I quit my job in insurance to work with Drew full time. And I'm like, oh my gosh, now we got to figure out how to make money. And it took relationships. That's what selling art is. It's relationships with people. And you can learn how to do this, because Oliver was shy. He didn't know how to do it. And then he learned because he was highly motivated. He wanted to quit his job, and he was like, well, come hell or high water, I'm going to figure this out.
I had enough. Can I also say something to that? Because I love the question. It's exactly that. Like, where is the money coming from? It's an exchange, your art, your skills with another person's money. So you have to talk to people, right? If you want to sell more, have, first of all, good prices so that you don't need to talk to thousands of people in order to make an okay living, right? If you have decent prices, if you charge 2,000, 3,000 and you do the work and you talk to people, you will find people that say, hey, I love this artist, I love the art, it's inspiring to me, I have the money, let's exchange it. But it's not going to happen if you don't talk to people, right? And like being exhausting, isn't it exhausting being in a job that you don't love? You know what I mean?
My God,
if you don't work that you have the safety of getting a paycheck. So that's the hard part, dealing with the uncertainty of knowing if you're gonna make it. And I think that's what holds a lot of artists back. But like I was like going about it in the way like as if it's guaranteed I'm gonna make that much money. I had a specific goal, and I took action as if I knew I will 100% make that money. That helped me to stay focused and be dialed in and not be fearful and scared all the time, because that energy is weakening you, right? So that's something I wanted to mention.
Okay, so Keith asks, I do digital illustrations. How about prints? Am I at a disadvantage? I mean, I would think this works for anything, right? You find the right group.
And this is an amazing story. I coached someone one-on-one last year, and she really wanted to have help from me because she found it very inspiring what I did. I didn't even want to do the coaching, but she's like, hey, look, I pay you a good sum. I'm like, okay, let's do it. And she painted on her iPad. So she did digital art. She printed them out within she never sold art before. I wasn't even 100% sure if I can help her because it's kind of like prints. But then I was thinking, And I realized it's not about the material you use. If you paint on your iPad or if you use acrylic or oil, your buyers don't really care about that. They care about the end result, the meaning, what it means to them, the connection they have to you and the artwork. So in 3 months, you made 13,000, never sold art before, and sold a single print for 8,000 Swiss francs. No, I think it was dollars. 8,000. Can you imagine that? So that it just, again, we shouldn't think too limited. You can make, you can make your art, even if it's a print, more valuable. The way you present it and the way you talk to people and so on and so forth, right? So just to, talk a little bit about that.
Okay, so we have about 15 minutes left, and Courtney said, "I'm so interested in your mastermind group." I'm going to talk about this for just like a couple minutes. So Oliver and I started this mastermind group in October. It's a exclusive group. There's a monthly fee. I put a link to it. The fee goes up in 24 hours. We raise it every so many people that sign up, we raise it another $10 a month. So, but once you get in at one price, you stay at that price forever. And you can hop out anytime you want. But the great thing about our mastermind group, it comes with, you have access to Oliver and me. We do live accountability sessions every week. And we have a lot of our mastermind members on here right now. And if any of you want to put one thing in the comment that you love about our mastermind group, I'd love to get a little feedback right now. Oliver, do you want to say one more thing about the mastermind before we move on to a couple more questions?
Yeah, I think it's like, this is literally both of us, Maria with all her knowledge around the website, email, and my knowledge without the website, just using Facebook. And also I had videos that went viral on Instagram. I still focus more on Facebook, but that's also something that I'm teaching, how to go viral on Instagram. And also mindset, because again, I really had the right mindset, a very clear vision, and I was really committed to it. That helped me to actually overcome my fears of talking to people and overcoming my shyness. So even that is in the training as well. So it's definitely worth it.
Excellent. So there's a link in the comments to the mastermind. We'd love to see you join. Okay, Brett Dealey. Brett, I just had the pleasure of working with Brett for an hour yesterday in a coaching session. Brett asked, Oliver, over the years, how have you adjusted to Facebook's algorithm of having less and less Facebook group reach? Have you seen any effect?
Not at all.
Oliver?
Not like one effect, there's one effect, but I still get hundreds of likes and hundreds of comments. I found now good groups that work really well, and I just keep posting in there, and I can make connections in there. Imagine you are in an event with 50,000 people. Some of the groups that I joined have 100,000 people in there. And of course, not everyone is seeing your post, but I still get hundreds of likes, sometimes like 500, sometimes even 1,000 likes, hundreds of comments. Lots of people I can reach out to. I'm going to be busy for weeks and weeks and weeks if I post one in one of these groups. The only thing that I did notice is, and I'm not sure if that's true, but I had the feeling that when I send friends requests, Facebook doesn't let me send friends requests to so many people. But even that, if you have like 300 comments and you can send friends requests to 50 people, that's still 50 people that you can send a message to, right? So it's in the end a numbers game. And for me, it still works, yeah.
So Joshua asked, what if customers want a discount or deal? Do you negotiate? What do you typically do, Oliver?
Like I did both, to be honest. It depends. Like I started actually changing the strategy a little bit. I noticed in the beginning, every time, like for example, I had a guy, he came to my place, looked at an artwork, and I wanted more for it. I think I wanted 4,000, but he was willing to spend 2,000. And now, yes, I could have, pushed 4,000, but in that instance, I was like looking for a good excuse. How can I say it's now 2,000 for him without devaluing my art? Yeah. So I had a good idea, good thing that I could tell him that made him feel honored instead of focusing on the value of my art. It made him feel honored, and we made a handshake deal and done. He paid right there and then. And that's for me, I rather have that than not a deal at all, just because I wanted the 4,000.
Right.
But
right.
I'm very like, I don't know how you are with this, Maria, but I think I have a quite good feeling when what is needed in the situation.
Yeah, I will play it by ear. Like sometimes I will say, look, if you pay cash, because I have people, like if I have somebody walk in, right? If you pay cash, that saves me 3% in credit card fees. And then I can, and I'll lower the price by a certain percentage. Or I'll tell people, I'll pay your shipping, like that way I'm giving them a deal, because some people just really want a deal. And so I'll give them a little something so they feel like they're getting a deal. There's different personality types, right? But there's a certain personality type where they have to feel like they negotiated and they got something. So you have to give them a little bit of a win. Or sometimes I'll say, well, I'll tell you what, I can't lower the price of the art, but I'll pay your sales tax. Because in California, like where I live, sales tax is almost 8%. And I'll say, okay, I'll pay your sale. I'll cover that. So that way, but I play it by ear. I come up with creative ways to give them a little something, but still make it seem like I'm keeping the value of the art. Okay, so next question. Does the closing always have to be over the phone? Oliver, do you always do it live over the phone, or do you sometimes do it through email or private message?
So I did both. I tested actually. Can I close deals just through messages? The answer is yes, you can, but I clearly could see it was way harder, because just think of, like, if someone writes you a message, right? You're just chatting with the person. First of all, it's so much easier to just ignore the person. It's so much easier to say nothing, ignore your message because the price is too much. So now, what can you do? Literally nothing anymore, because you don't know anything. You don't know what's going on. You don't know, is it the price? Is it maybe the art piece that she doesn't like, that she's not sure about? But there's so many things that you don't know. I had people, I don't remember the most expensive piece I've sold over just a message, but I believe it was like 3,000, maybe 4,000 over a message. But I clearly get more no's on messages, or more people ignoring me, versus I'm jumping on a call. And I also was able to charge way higher prices on calls. It's just so much easier. They connect to you. You have it just builds the connection way easier than on a just per message, And you can, if they don't like, if something is off, if it's the price, if it's the art piece they're not sure about, or anything else, you can find a solution, and even like ask for a deposit, which I did in the past, and it worked, right? So I would highly recommend jumping on a call, on a Zoom call. And I know it's uncomfortable, but you get used to it, and it will become your second nature, and you will just start doing things like this. And then it's not going to be so hard.
Look, one thing I tell everybody in the mastermind group all the time, everything you want is on the other side of your comfort zone. Literally everything you want. You already have everything you've earned, okay? You've got it right now. What you have right now is what fits your current comfort zone. When you step out of that comfort zone, that's when you get more of what you're dreaming of. So that is, like, to me, the greatest thing about joining an accountability group or having a group of friends where you push each other off that ledge of comfort. And it's just like when babies learn how to walk, they fall down a lot and they cry. But do they quit trying to walk? No, and eventually it's easy. It's the same thing. All right, so we have just a couple minutes left. Let's answer these questions like rapid fire. Andrew asked, did you request a call through a Facebook reply saying that they liked your work? How did you arrange a phone call from a post?
Yeah, so again, you need to think like these are human beings, right? You cannot just say, hey, let's jump on a call, you're interested, or like, hey, here's my calendar, please book a call. No, these are human beings, right? So it can seem differently because it's online. You don't have this one-on-one connection. So sometimes we become literally like robots. We behave and write really weird stuff because we forget, hey, this is a human being on the other side of the screen, right? So when they write a comment, of course, like I'm not jumping on a call immediately. I'm having a conversation. I'm having, like, I sent them a message. I'm like, hey, thanks for your comment. I really appreciate it. And always, I try to always have high energy because this enthusiasm is contagious. But you need to find your own style, right? But yeah, I sent the message. I asked them questions. What did you like about the artwork? Then, people are different. Sometimes I'm like getting an answer like, hey, your art is so amazing. I love this. Sometimes the colors were nice. So you have to adjust to the person and then have a conversation, find ways to ask questions, share something from you. And then on one point, hey, you can just say like, hey, let's jump on a call. I would love to talk further about XYZ, or would love to get to know you more. Let's jump on a call. Like, just kind of try to be natural, you know what I mean? And then jump on a call and have the conversation.
Okay, Lon asked, how do you accept, what do you accept for payment?
Yeah, no crypto. I wouldn't like, it could work. I mean, you can accept money through crypto, but no, I wouldn't do it because most people don't understand yet how it works. There are lots of scams out there as well, like NFT, all that stuff. So I jump on a call. So they people from Switzerland make the bank transfer often, but often I also ask them to pay with credit card. So I had a Stripe app on my phone, put in the credit card details, and then I saw it got accepted. Perfect, done. The payment was literally done. No worries about running after the customer or whatever. But I also use PayPal. It works. Both PayPal works, Stripe works, bank transfer works too. The danger is just that they might disappear, right? So I like the way of the PayPal. With PayPal, you can get immediately the payment, right?
Okay.
So I did both PayPal and Stripe.
So we have just 4 minutes left. Don't go anywhere, guys, because at the top of the hour, we're going to show you the back end of the mastermind. If you're interested in joining, I'd say stick around. Kelly, so I'm going to skip through some of these questions because in the mastermind, Oliver has this whole course that answers all this. So I'm going to skip this question. Andrew asked, how often do you discuss, where do you envision this art going? We're going to skip that. Andrew's a part of our mastermind. Andrew, you can take the course in the mastermind just because we're running out of time. That was Andrew Garlow.
Good question to ask them. Like, where do you see this artwork going? Great question, because it gets them to visualize your artwork in their home. So that's a good one, yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm just going to skip through these because and by the way, everybody, thank you for asking all these amazing questions. I don't know how this hour went so darn fast, but it just went so fast. All right, there's more questions about the groups, but in your course in the mastermind, Oliver, you answer all this in detail,
I answer this question. Yeah, also about not being able to promote. I answer that question too, because there's a way around it. But you don't want to be salesy. You want to be inspiring. And so I cover this as well in the training.
A couple of people asked this question, just a quick yes or no. Do you put your price on the Facebook with the painting or no? No.
Me not, because it's all about the connection. First, you need, like, it doesn't make sense. Like, imagine coaches saying before they talk to the student and asking, like, what's your problem? What's your goal? Hey, we can actually help you. Just saying up front already, hey, it's 5,000. Do you want to jump on a call? They're like, whoa, 5,000? No. But there's so many people buying the program for 5,000 if they truly believe it will solve their problem and get them to their desired end result. People would pay that. They often pay that money just because they now know that this is what they want. So price always comes as the last thing.
Okay. All right. Couple questions. Jonesy asked, how do you end up talking about your art since most don't allow self-promotion? Elena said they discourage selling and remove posts. You're not selling your art. You are sharing your opinion about something that has to do with the group. Your post is not about your art. Your art is just a photo you post, and you might tie your art into it, but you are not actively selling your art in the post. You are.
It's all about the group.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. So we have a lot more. So here we are at the end of the hour. I want to jump into talking about the mastermind. Oh, Brittoni just joined us. Brittoni B, I'm so happy you joined us.
Welcome.
I love this girl's art, and we've known each other forever, and I'm so glad you joined. Debbie's already a member of our group. Thank you, Debbie. And Courtney hopefully is looking into it. Jill is a member of our group. Thank you, Jill, for being here. Andrew Darlow is. Jamie Haney is. Jamie says she loves the accountability and friendships that she's gotten through our mastermind group. So Andrew Darlow said the mastermind's fantastic. Just the email training, that's another course that we do in there, was a worth of the year of membership. Thank you, Andrew. That's like the best thing ever. And then Jill is in our group, and she wrote, we all help each other reach our goals with our art business, and the support is amazing. And Jill, you're like one of the most supportive members we have. So what comes around goes around. Gosh, this is great. Thank you all for, okay, Debbie said, I love the overall participation of the members of the group. And Amanda says, I love the group helps with accountability, support, and breakthroughs. And Marie is also a member, and she said the group is super interactive and very supportive. Marie and Oliver both respond to questions, and all of the members help each other all the time. That is the best part of the group, is all of you who are members of it. And I'm going to, gosh, there's so many great comments. I love you all so much, and I mean that. Gosh, it's amazing. Okay, I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to show you the, let's see, here we go. Can you see, Oliver, tell me, do you see the community on my screen? Yeah, okay.
Yes.
So this is what it looks like when you join the mastermind group. And we have the calendar where these are all live things. Every Monday, we meet for accountability sessions. We have hot seat sessions. We have, our calendar is always full with live sessions. But the best thing is solving problems. If you have a problem, like Joan Marie is trying to ship a painting to Australia, people are commenting, sharing what they know. I mean, we share our secrets here. And by the way, our secrets do not come out of this group. It's just amazing. I mean, I'm leading this, and I learned so much from these members because everybody just has so much to share. And if any of you, yeah.
I'm excited about your Art Money Success formula, which is going to be live.
Yeah. So that starts February 3rd. And if you're a member of the mastermind group, you get access to this 9-week course for free, and it's all live. If you're not a member, I sell it for $997. So, Oliver, do you mind adding, actually, I can do it real quick, a link to join the mastermind? And for the next 24 hours, the price stays the same. In 24 hours, we raise the price by another $10 a month. So now is the time to join. And yes, so it's going up in 24 hours. And Oliver has this amazing course where he goes into great detail about how to sell art through Facebook. And that's just one of the many resources we have. Oh, Brett just joined our mastermind. Brett, I'm so glad because, by the way, Brett taught me a little something yesterday. Brett, if you're still here, look what I bought off of Amazon after I talked to you. Was that yesterday or the day before? I think it was the day before yesterday. I'll share this in the mastermind. I'm not going to get into it right now because it'll take too long. But Brett taught me a little trick about this little clicker to change my brain. Pretty cool. So let's see. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for all the comments. You all are just amazing. We had almost 200 people on live. Lana just joined. Lana, yay, thank you. So glad you are now a member of our group. And I recognize so many names here. I just know so many people from years of being in art. Courtney asked, I'm a mural artist. Will the information translate well to murals? Yes, Courtney, as a matter of fact, we have quite a few muralists as a part of our Art Money Success Mastermind group. And Joan, hi, Joan. I'm glad you're here. Joan says, love our group and how we all help each other. Yes. And I'm just so happy you're all here. Let me see. All right. So I think we're going to just call it a day. And Pop asked a good question. All right, I got to answer this question about the mastermind. If I don't like the course, can we sign out after a few months? You can quit anytime. So you pay per month. So if after the first month you're like, well, I don't love it or whatever, which I'll be surprised, you will love it. But if you don't, it's a one-click cancel. You don't even have to tell us you're canceling. It's one click. It's super easy. There's no, you don't even have to email me or Oliver. You just, it's super easy. Okay. And Jan said, I just saw your email, hopped on the call, will be a replay. I was not planning on doing a replay of this because I wanted people to join us live. Who knows? I got a lot of people asking for the replay. We might change our minds. I will let you know. Something for Oliver and I to discuss. But thank you all for being here. And Oliver, thank you for sharing all of your secrets. And hopefully we'll see you all in the mastermind. And have an awesome, productive rest of your day, everybody. Bye.
Thank you, Maria. Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.
Thanks.